available for folks afterwards. And does anybody have any questions about, well, anything in this moment that I can answer? All right. So I'm going to advance my slides here. I'm on slide advance. Okay, so I'm going to provide an overview of AmeriCorps and specifically the Ambassador of Mentoring program here at Mass Mentoring. I am the program manager. I came to Mass Mentoring almost a year ago. It was the end of March, beginning of April. COVID had already arrived, and I'm going to enter, allow people to enter as I continue to speak. And so most, if not nearly all of my time has been influenced by COVID. And despite COVID, one program year ended with a lot of success, and another program year has started. And as I said a few minutes ago, we're halfway through. We're almost halfway through the program year 2021. And pleased that people are interested in applying for the next year. So I'll give some information about the application timeline and the process as we understand it. I'll give an overview of sample projects that AmeriCorps members can engage in. I'll let you know what's been different this past year, essentially due to COVID and the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, we've changed some of the things accordingly. I'll let you know what we think makes a quality host site, a quality host site application. I'll let you know why I think you should choose Mass Mentoring, because Mass Mentoring is just one of the places that you can apply to for an AmeriCorps member. And then we'll have time for frequently asked questions and other things to consider when applying. So that's the plan. And I'll say a little bit about who we are and what we achieve. And mention here on the left, you know, we have ourselves, Mass Mentoring, and then I'm going to move this slide here on my other computer. Let's see here. So the AmeriCorps program is funded through collaborative funding by Mass Mentoring Partnership, by the Corporation for National and Community Service, by Massachusetts Service Alliance, and this past year we also got funding from the Cummings Foundation. Mass Service Alliance works in coordination with us and AmeriCorps to focus on service-driven programs in our state. And the Ambassador of Mentoring program is essentially a program that allows highly trained young professionals who commit to serve almost a full year at an organization, in our case, a youth serving organization focused on building the capacity of mentoring programs in 3/4 areas: match support, marketing, mentor recruitment and training, and startup. And overall, if you know Mass Mentoring, you know that we partner with more than 250 youth development and mentoring organizations in the state, and that helps serve over 30,000 youth. I'll advance now to my next slide, which is actually not a complete slide. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to interview about a half dozen current members about what they know they do at their host site. And I recorded it and I have a link. I wanted to share it today. I might be successful to that end if I can figure out how to do it. But if not, you've registered. I know you're here, and I will send that link along. And it's really compelling to hear the members themselves share what they do at the host sites that they serve at. So that will be coming along. So let me just say a little bit about what is AmeriCorps and sort of how long we've been working with AmeriCorps. It has been, oops, somebody's speaking.
I could beat the snot out of her.
Uh-oh,
She
wait,
is now.
Barbara, dear, I think you don't know that your mic is not muted. Okay. Since 2008, Mass Mentoring has engaged 200 AmeriCorps volunteers and 80 mentoring programs. Each year, AmeriCorps awards 20 plus mentoring organizations and/or youth development programs through Mass Mentoring with the opportunity to participate as host sites in the national service movement. So what does an ambassador do? Like I said, you're going to hear from the members themselves, but there is a general overall understanding of what an ambassador does. They're placed full-time at mentoring programs to help build their capacity in the following program areas. And these program areas, as we sort of go on and describe what we're looking for in your application and as well as your project scope, are really important to pay attention to. Do you need members to help with program development and support? Do you need members to help with mentor-mentee training, match support, and/or mentor recruitment and marketing? These are the questions you need to ask yourself, and these are the questions that you need to answer in the application. Ambassadors are not teachers or mentors, and therefore they do not provide direct mentoring service. They help your organization build the capacity to provide direct mentoring service. So an ambassador can help a new mentoring program develop and lead a regional marketing campaign, to recruit diverse mentors, to strengthen a self-esteem mentoring program. That's just an example. To improve a mentoring program's overall support to volunteers, to create and lead volunteer and youth trainings and program curriculum, and/or just create fun activities for mentors and mentees and more. And I will tell you that this year, because we're virtual, all of us more or less most of the time, that last category has been really, really important to have members willing and able to create activities that maybe have never been created before, and really hold and cherish the support that the mentor-mentee relationship really needs. Is there anything you want to add at this juncture that I might not have said or not emphasized enough, Janine?
No, I think you said everything, and we'll get more into kind of project scope, and obviously folks should know that if you're curious or want to know more about what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, or what makes sense, we're always here to offer technical assistance to help you kind of think through what are some good ideas for an AmeriCorps member to be doing at your host site.
Yeah, I think the more fully informed you are about what you want to do, and the more questions you have that we're more than willing to answer, the better your application is going to be, essentially. And this applies to people who've already been recipients of a member and/or people who never have and are interested, because we always have a blend of returning programs as well as new ones. I also just want to say, if you have a question, you can ask it in the chat, and we can look at those questions when we get to the end of our time together. All right, so you apply, you get accepted, and what you receive is a full-time AmeriCorps Ambassador of Mentoring slot for 11 months. That actually equals 1,700 hours of service spread out over that 11-month period. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time that you receive from somebody who's in the role to assist you with those areas that I've mentioned, and I'll talk more about. You get from us ongoing project management, supervision, and support for all the AOMs. We do our best to help the AOM, the AmeriCorps Ambassador of Mentoring, the member. These are all terms that are used for the same thing. We do our best to help that member at your site, but we also do our best to help that member feel him or herself a part of a core, because of the 21 host sites that we choose, we have about 23 members. There are a couple of host sites this year who have 2 members, and that, fluctuates one year to the next, depending both on the number of members who've applied and the number of members who've been selected, and then the number of host sites that we have. MMP provides training and professional development for the cohort, for the core, as I like to call them. We give them extensive training on the elements of effective practice, which is the measure that we use to know if we're doing what it is we're supposed to be doing, and if we're doing it as well as we want. And again, we provide ongoing professional support in areas of nonprofit leadership, and also personal soft and hard skill development. These members are coming in often post-college, maybe not exactly sure what they want to do in the nonprofit sector. We don't want to lose them. We want to keep them. And so helping them figure out during the course of their AmeriCorps year, how they want to proceed within the field, and keeping them interested and keeping them excited and supporting them is a big part of what we do, a big part of how I spend my time with members. And as Janine mentioned, along the way, either before you apply, after you apply, and once you're selected, we are here to provide personalized technical assistance in all sorts of areas. I mean, this past year, of course, it included the elements of effective practice, but it also included, COVID-related matters. It also included what to do about the Black Lives Matter movement and how to incorporate that into your project scope. These are all questions that arose and are still arising. We're living in this world right now that is greatly affected by many things. And how do we respond? And how do we respond in a way that keeps it real? And how do we respond in a way that honors the needs of young people? And then ultimately, if you're chosen, and if you get a great member, which you will, that member has access then to the national service movement. And that's really, really incredible. I'm going to keep moving on here. Now, this slide, I don't expect you to read it. I actually should send it to everybody who came. This is our current logic model that was recently revised and rewritten for the CNCS grant going forward. What I want you to know is that we think a lot about the top bar there. What are the inputs for a ambassador of mentoring? What are then the activities that follow? What are we expecting as far as both outputs and outcomes? And what are the medium and the long-term goals? Ultimately, we want Massachusetts to have a vibrant and active network of mentoring and youth serving providers. And we want to share best practices so as to raise the voices of youth serving organizations so they can better able advocate for youth. That's the ultimate goal. And so when you apply for an AmeriCorps member through Mass Mentoring, you need to know that that's what we're striving to do. And we want to do that in partnership with you. And we want to do that in collaboration with a member that you select and that we then support. So this is actually, for anybody who's ever worked on a logic model, it's a great task to sort of name to yourself what it is you're trying to do. So this is a slide of our logic model. It'll be included in the recording, and it will also be something that I can send along to you. Anything you want to add there, Janine?
No, I think you've covered it all. And yeah, for people who, I know I like to look at a good logic model. Again, I think checking this out, if we send it to you, will help you get a better understanding of the program and probably inform again how you create a project scope that meets some of these outcomes. Yeah,
tailoring your project scope to these outcomes. Exactly. Yeah. And it's interesting that you named the outcomes, especially the short-term ones. More effective and culturally responsive recruitment strategies, development of more effective orientation and training opportunities, engaging in research-based matching support practices, and evidence-informed policy and procedure manual. These all relate to the elements of effective practice. All right, so that's the more sort of conceptual part of what it would mean for you to both apply and be accepted as a host site for an AmeriCorps member. I'm going to get into sort of the breakdown of the ambassador's year in terms of the time that they spend with you as compared to being with us. And approximately 75% of the 1,700 hours are spent directly in coordination with the host site. And then 13% is sectioned for monthly program days at Mass Mentoring. We have those once a month. I'll say a little bit more about them in a moment. And that time, the program days are focused on professional development, training in the EEP, as well as taking seminars in nonprofit leadership supported by our partnership with Boston University. So we have these program days once a month, and those days are followed by what we call the BU seminar days with Scott Solberg and John Zaft, who've been working with us for a few years now. And I'd like to think that the program days in combination with the BU seminars connect the core members with one another, connect the core members with mass mentoring, and then make it so your ambassador of mentoring is more capable of being the member that you selected, and they feel more able to contribute to your host site and your host site goals and priorities. Move on to the next slide here and do that on my computer here. All right, so the relationship between mass mentoring and the host site. So at the host site, we expect that you provide your member weekly supervision. We expect that from really day one, you review with them what their project scope responsibilities are. We want you to provide optimal workspace and technology. In the past, that has literally been an office, with a desk and a computer and a phone. Parts of that are still true now, but with everybody essentially living at work, some of those needs need to get met in a different way. So having good Wi-Fi and having good Wi-Fi available to your member matters greatly, as it does, the whole staff. We want you to be able to support the member in their day-to-day responsibilities and be available for any questions that they might have. We want you to invite them in and embrace them as a member of your organization and help them network among the colleagues and the staff and the communities that you serve. We need them to know what your human resource policies are. We don't really, you want to avoid people being surprised. And then it is your goal as the host site / the host site supervisor to approve their timesheet. And that is very critical for a number of reasons, not just so they receive their stipend, but more importantly, so that they can collect on their hours, which they need to do to complete their year fully. And on our end at Mass Mentoring, we pay the stipend, we pay, travel reimbursement, which this year really there hasn't been any. We help them if they need assistance with loan deferment. A number of members this year have college debt, and they are in need of being aware of and taking advantage of the loan deferment opportunity. Assuming they complete their year fully, which is entirely dependent on serving and collecting the 1,700 hours, they receive an education award. And I go in and out of knowing what that award what that award amount is. Janine, do you know what that amount is? Or Greg, do you know? I should know it by now.
It is close to $6,000, Greg.
Okay.
I think you have the full amount, and that's something that they get after they complete a year of service and can use that for loans or to pay for a grad school or undergrad, whatever educational
Pursuits they might have. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Support them in thinking through that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then, as I mentioned, we work with BU on these BU seminars. They receive a certificate at the end of that program. They get health insurance, professional development, as I've already described. They have access to professional counseling if needed. They have access to the alumni network. We're actually in this program year about to start talking with them about life after AmeriCorps. And we reach out to our alumni network. We have almost 300 alumni that we can access, who are often more than willing to come back and communicate with the current members about what they've decided to pursue after their experience of AmeriCorps. There's a lot of individualized support. I think that's true in general. I think because of all the things going on related to the Black Lives Matter movement and COVID, we've had to do a bit more of that in some instances. We provide childcare vouchers and also SNAP benefits. And a lot of these benefits, just from being accepted into an AmeriCorps program, these benefits are made available. But mass mentoring really helps the Corps members make sense of what those benefits are and answer questions along the way. And certainly within our operations department, I know that Greg is regularly being approached with questions that people, don't have answers to. I'm going to keep moving on here. And I hope and assume this is helpful. So as I mentioned, at least 70% of an ambassador's time is spent at their formal mentoring program. And then we have somewhere between, I don't know, it's like between 25 and 30% of their time focused on other activities that support mentor or youth development activities. And so when you're writing your narrative in the proposal, you need to make sure that in your traditional breakdown of responsibilities that you fit in this breakdown that I'm sharing with you right now. We will be reviewing the percentage of that breakdown to ensure that these qualifications are met. And in the past, organizations have allowed members to focus more on direct service than they should. And when we see that in the application, we're made to sort of reconsider whether or not mass mentoring is the appropriate organization for you to have an ambassador. And so the key words to think about are, if you want to have an ambassador, whether you've had one this year or in years past, or you want to have one again, is how can that member help your organization build the capacity to improve, expand, or strengthen youth mentor activities. All right. So some of this is repetitious, but I think it's helpful to hear the 4 different categories that we're considering when you're writing your project scope. An ambassador supports, as I mentioned, mentor recruitment and marketing. How do you get your mentors? Ambassadors are there to help with that task. Once you get them, how do you train them? What's involved in that process? Members are there to help. If you've never run a mentorship program, how do you start one up? And members are very involved in that process with a few of our programs this year. And then ultimately, how do you create a good match between the mentor and the mentee, and what's involved in that? And we reference, obviously, the elements of effective practice, but the years that mass mentoring has been assisting programs and collaborating with programs on intact, strong matches between mentors and mentees. And then last year, we started offering a quality-based membership application. Would you speak to that a little bit, Janine? Because I feel like I'm still learning about that in my role as program manager at Mass Mentoring.
Sure. So quality-based membership is a program that Mass Mentors has run for the past about 11, 12 years. And it uses the elements of effective practice to kind of take a look at your program from A to Z and figure out, are you providing the highest quality of mentoring that you can? So it's an assessment, really, and through that assessment, MMP supports programs to then update kind of what they're doing, make their practices better, create a policy and procedure manual, and so on, right? So this process usually takes about 6 months to a year. It begins with a self-assessment, and then you engage with us to do some pretty intensive TA, technical assistance, to be able to update those things to meet the standards that the elements of effective practice has set. It's a really great job for an AmeriCorps member, or job role, service position opportunity, because it allows you to have one person who's kind of focused on compiling documents, organizing, having conversations with you, taking all those things that are in your head and kind of documenting it. For the most part, most programs end up creating or updating their policy and procedure manual. They work with us to get templates and ideas about how to do those things. And once you end, you can become a partner level program with Mass Mentoring partnership, which includes access to some funding opportunities, being able to access additional like match activities when we're thinking about programs that we want to highlight or promote, or if one of our funders or other partners asks us for, hey, what mentoring program in this area is doing this, we're always going to look to our partner level programs first. Several of you on the line are in partner level programs, so you're familiar with this process. You have to renew it every 2 years, so even if you are a partner, that renewal process is something that the AmeriCorps member can kind of take on. That may not take the full project scope, but for people who have not engaged in that process at all, it's a really good kind of process where your AmeriCorps member can touch all parts of your program and really spend intentional time that we as program folks often don't have because we're busy running programming, to say, all right, the EEP says the recruitment should happen like this. How does that work in my program? And then in addition to the BU seminar and conversations they're having with their other AOMs, it really is a nice way to bring a continuous improvement process to your program.
Well said. I couldn't have said it better. I will say that we have a few programs doing that this year. And so there's sort of our desire for you as a host site to apply and get this, I don't know what to call it, certification, if you will, and to be able to utilize your member in this way, I think is really invaluable. And the members who are involved in that process this year have said as much to me. So yeah, definitely something to consider if you haven't already. Whoops, went a little too fast here. Okay, so in your application, we are looking at a few things pretty closely. We want to see what your recruitment plan looks like. We want to know that you have somebody who is not only willing to be a supervisor, but really able to be a supervisor. It can happen sometimes that folks underestimate the need that a member has for a host site supervisor. And I think that not only makes it hard for the member, and it does, but I think it also makes it that the site doesn't really get much bang for their buck in terms of what the member is there to do. And so to be really clear with yourself, really clear about your program, really clear about whoever it is that is going to be that supervisor, that he or she is available to the member on a weekly basis. Again, we prioritize this 70-30 breakdown, and then we have a renewed priority on innovation and growth for recompeting programs. So if you've been somebody that has been applying and being approved for acceptance into the program, we want to see that you reference what has already happened and what it is you want to do going forward. And sometimes it's continuing the same thing because you haven't met the bar that you want to meet, but sometimes it's changing it. And I'm really curious to see this year how people are going to be folding in, the presence of COVID into the year going forward. And I have just a huge amount of respect for all sorts of youth serving organizations in Massachusetts. And I did even before COVID, but I have even more respect now. People figuring out how to stay in the game and how to stay in the game in a real way. And we want that to be true. And we want that to be especially true for people when they're considering having a member. All right. So this is the list of things that you must know that you cannot do. And these are very critical, these prohibited activities, which is why we have them here in this way. And we talk about this really throughout the year, but we emphasize this at the start of the year, both with host sites as well as with members, because there are moments when we need reminding. So the prohibited activities include, you getting a member that displaces a current employee, you getting a member and that member focuses solely on direct service, you getting a member who involves him or herself in political advocacy, religious instruction, voter registration or union organizing. So these are things we don't want to see. The project scope that prevents or limits an AmeriCorps member from participating fully in the full course. Sometimes, people get a member and the host site has a clear idea how they want that member to serve at their host site, but they either downplay or underestimate the time that they need to spend with MMP. So please be aware that we expect your member to be involved in the activities that I've already named, and be aware that it benefits that member in a number of ways, and makes them actually stronger, not just in their own understanding, but in their presence at your host site. And then lastly, I say AmeriCorps members cannot spend any of their time involved in fundraising, writing federal grants, and they must not spend more than 10% of their service time fundraising. Now, that is what I just said, spending more than 10% of their service time fundraising, that's specific to their host site, correct, Janine?
Yeah, so they can't fundraise for their position or work on any federal grants. So you can't have them fundraising to pay for the rest of the fee to MMP. But we know that for some programs, depending on what your AmeriCorps member is doing, they might need to fundraise for a project that you want to do, or be involved in small pieces of fundraising. We just want to make sure that you're not having them work on major grants and do more than their share of what that should look like. So if it's, oh, well, we need our person to fundraise and it's an opportunity for professional development, that's fine, right?
Yeah,
and some members might be interested in that. It's just, specifically we're a capacity building organization, they should be working on formal structured mentoring. So it's fine if we've had questions, can they come to the gala event? Yeah, of course, right? They're a member of the organization. That makes sense. They can't be soliciting sponsorships for 5 months before the event, right? That would take up more than 10% of their time. If they want to sit with you in some meetings, or they want to take their hand at writing a donation request at the local pizza shop, great. But it's really, you'll know what feels appropriate and what doesn't. If you have questions, ask us and we can help you out.
And that's another thing. I'm actually now remembering that this past year I've had host site supervisors say to me, this is an event that's coming up related to our organization's effort to fundraise, and we are involving our member this way. Is that okay? And I'm more than happy to answer those questions and to talk with host site supervisors about how to figure it out. We are here if you need us. And on that point, I'm going to bring in Greg and have him speak a little bit about the overall operational budget and the host site match. Take it away, Greg.
Thanks, Rosie. And I'm just noticing that you've got the old host site fees here up presented on your screen.
Then all the more reason for you to be here and help me put in the right amounts.
Yeah. So if I share my screen.
Oh, okay. Let me stop sharing. Yeah, here, I'll stop sharing here. Okay. That's great. Thank you. See, here we are, being a team.
So if I pull it up here, and I'm just in the, can everyone see my screen? There's it says 2021-2022 AmeriCorps Ambassadors Mentoring Online RFP application. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Great. So this is where you'll go to actually physically apply, assuming that after this webinar, you're excited and you want to go do that. And on there, there's a section that talks about the host site fee. And this section here that I've highlighted in blue asks what your organization budget, not to be confused with your programmatic budget if you're an organization that has multiple programs and mentoring is just a small piece of what you do. We're talking about your overall organizational budget for the fiscal year. So the host site fee here, as you can see, if you're a small organization, less than 300,000, then the host site fee is 9,000. If you're between 300 and 750, then the host site fee is 11,000. And if you're between 750 and 1,250,000, the host site fee is 14,000. And if you're over 1,250,000, the host site fee is 16,000. So these are the host site fees here. And the way we determine, you check these boxes on here, and then you're also uploading at a different point, actually at the MMP Common Grant application, which you submit in conjunction with this. You're uploading what your most recent audited financial statement is, and that's where we're verifying what your org budget is. And if you're don't have audited financials, then you're submitting your 990. So I'm not sure of the audience we have on the roll, but your finance team can help you pull together and answer these questions as they relate to your organization. I jumped right into it here because that was the slide I was given, but just to give a little context about my role in the organization and involvement in the AmeriCorps program, I've been with MMP since 2015 and have been involved with the administrative side of the AmeriCorps program for that time. I'm the director of operations, and so for the support that we provide the program, in addition to dealing with the finances of the program and the host site fee, which we do. The other thing that we do is we provide the compliance for the program to meet the terms of the grant that we have with MSA and CNCS. So we run the background checks for the members so that they're able to participate in the program, and we're able to be reimbursed for their stipends with our grant. And we administer the benefits for the program for the members, such as the health insurance, and get them paid. So that's it's not Rosie doing all this. Rosie, we also have a staff of I have a staff member on my team that assists with the administration of the program as well. So was there anything else you wanted me to cover here, Rosie?
No, and I'm so glad. In regards to what Greg shared on his screen, I'll update the slide. And so when I send out sort of the post webinar links, it will include what you just shared, Greg. And yeah, your point is well taken. It's a real group effort here in terms of running the AmeriCorps program. Folks from operations, yourself included, other members of MMP, Janine and Beth, myself, and the whole team at MMP, depending on the activity that is occurring. So yeah, when you get an AmeriCorps member, you get us, and we'd like to think that that's a good thing, and that helps you do more of what it is you want to do and do it well. So thank you. Yes, that's what I needed, Greg. Let me go back to sharing my screen. And Janine, I'll just mention that I sent in the email the link for that member panel, and it may or may not have gone through, but if it does, then maybe you could include it in the chat. Thank you. All right, here we are back here. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the RFP timeline. So you're here today at this webinar. We have one today and another one at the end of the month. This is for you to think about, talk about at your host site or with us, whether or not you want to apply. There's then going to be an application that you can submit. Greg, it says here, if you're still here, that we need the application online and in hard copy. I don't know if that's still true or not. Do we need a hard copy?
No, we don't need a hard copy.
All right. So that application is due on Friday, February 26th, no later than 5 p.m. We then spend a good part of the month of March going through a community review process of the applications that we receive. And then it will be sometime at the end of March, beginning of April, that we make decisions and give people notification. And really in April, after you've been accepted, after you've been notified that you're accepted, we have you start getting training on recruitment. And we're here to support you in that process. And you have between April and June, ideally to find a member who will serve at your host site starting at the end of July, beginning of August. And there's a way in which we sort of spell out in specific detail, month by month, everything that I just said, but this gives you an overview of the RFP timeline. All right, continuing on, and this is really, I think, the question that you're most interested in: what makes a quality application? We want to know that you understand the mass mentoring program model. Again, there's lots of AmeriCorps programs, lots of programs that have AmeriCorps members, but mass mentoring is involved in the AmeriCorps program specifically to build capacity of youth-serving organizations as it relates to running quality-based mentorship programs. We will also consider your past performance if you are reapplying. As I already mentioned, we want to see a clear supervision structure. We think about where we are in the state of Massachusetts, and we try our best to give the whole state geographic representation. And we have programs, in and near the Boston area. We have programs further west. And I think right now, I actually live in Western Mass. I'm from Boston, but we have some programs in Springfield and in Holyoke. No, I think actually the two programs, Westfield and Springfield. So we also consider where it is that you're applying from and give special consideration to folks who are outside the Boston area, along with, if you're mentioning unique or special populations that you serve, that are otherwise, marginalized or disenfranchised. We want you to submit an application with a demonstrated need and understanding of the population to be served. What benefit will that population be able to take advantage of from the ambassador service year? And we want to see clear project goals and expected outcomes, including a month-by-month project timeline. The core members that I have this year, they regularly meet with their host site supervisors, and they regularly look at their project scope and see where they are in the program year relative to what we thought was going to be occurring within the written project scope. And sometimes it's exactly where it's supposed to be, and sometimes not. Sometimes we're a little further ahead, sometimes we're a little further behind, but you want to use that project scope, as some folks in the MMP office like to say, as their North Star. And then we also really want to know how you're going to recruit your member. Getting the right member is really, really important. So where are you advertising? Where are you networking? Where are you letting the world know that you have an ambassador of mentoring slot open within your organization? And some organizations struggle with this, and some organizations do great with this. And I haven't even been able to figure out exactly why. Mass mentoring, myself especially, we're here to help. But you really need to think about how are you going to recruit this member. We believe that you know who you want. We give you a lot of freedom to choose who that person is. I'm brought in to do a final interview just to basically say, yeah, this person is great. I have incredible conversations with members that have been selected by host sites. And we really want you to find somebody that you need, find somebody that you think is great, and find somebody that represents the community that you're trying to serve. All right, so we're going back in here. This is another review of the timeline. I feel like I've already pretty much stated everything about the webinar, the RFP release, the date that we want the RFP back, when grant awardees will be notified. Greg didn't mention this, I don't think, but we expect you to submit a cooperative agreement that you sign, and then you pay a little deposit so that we know that you're all in. And then, as I mentioned, host site recruitment begins in April and hopefully ends by June. We want you to know that you have somebody before the program year starts. They have to collect 1,700 hours. If they start late, then their ability to collect on those hours, their ability to serve is compromised. And believe it or not, wow, we're at 10 of 11. And that's right where I want it to be for any questions that people might have. So I'm going to stop the share here so I can see your faces and really be available for any questions that you have in this moment. And I don't know, Janine, was that link, did that come through or did that not happen?
Yeah, I shared it
Oh,
twice.
yay.
So let us know if you can't access the file, and we'll take a look at it.
And so, like I said, those are 6 members. I basically said to the Corps, who wants to come forward and say what you do at your host site? And these are the people that step forward. So they're really clear, they're really passionate, and it gives you a sense of the range of things that members are doing this year and well into the next. And, you know, if somebody has an idea that we haven't thought about, but it makes sense and it's compelling and it's, even a little radical, we're open to that. We really want to keep pace with the times, and we really want to serve people, host sites, and your community in a way that makes a difference. That's why all of us in private nonprofit do what we do. We want to make a difference, and getting an AmeriCorps, getting somebody who wants to get things done to do that with you is a really powerful way to proceed. So I'll just look around, ask anybody if they have anything. All right, so let's see, Janet is asking a question. Don't feel embarrassed. Yes, you will be able to access the recording. Yeah, we are recording it, and I'll send it out to you all if you need to look at it. But really, Claire, Mark, Lauren, Barbara, Eva, Amanda, Sue. Hi, Sue. Any questions?
Yeah. Hi, Rosie. This is Mark.
Mark.
I had a quick question. If we currently have an America Vista volunteer at the school serving in a particular area, and we have a robust mentoring program at the school that we're interested in collaborating with Mass Mentoring to get a member to participate in, do we then have to pay an additional site fee to as part of this application process?
I think so. Yeah, I'm looking at Janine, and I was going to nod, and she's nodding.
Yeah.
Mark,
So
where are you at? What's your host site? Just remind me.
I'm at William James College.
Okay.
Yeah. The VISTA program is totally separate. It's under that umbrella of the Corporation of National Community Service. They're volunteers in service to America. We see them on opening day, but aside from that, we're not affiliated, and it's a different kind of site fee. Basically, we write our grant to CNCS, and we're able to award you an AmeriCorps member based on what we've promised the federal government. And so the site fee, all of the work, Vistas do very different work than Ambassadors and Mentoring, or they can do. Vistas in some ways have more flexibility. When I was an AmeriCorps member, I served alongside with a Vista. She could do fundraising. She could do a lot of different other things that I couldn't. So our program is very kind of niche and specific. And as such, the fees and everything would be paid directly to Mass Mentoring Partnership, and they're separate from your VISTA fees.
And did I understand correctly, part of the presentation, that if we were to apply for an awarded America Vista Corps volunteer in year 2, we can then apply for a partner site certification, or is those two things happen simultaneously or separate, independent of each other?
Sure. So yeah, if your member is working on your quality-based membership application and completes that within the year, essentially for it to be eligible for QBM, your program has to be in existence for at least 1 year. So if they're, depending on if your member is doing program development and QBM at the same time, by the end of the year, you should be eligible.
Oh, Janine has frozen. She was ending on a good note, though, wasn't she, Mark? Yeah.
She was.
Yeah.
And so I think I kind of got the gist of where Janine was headed with that. And as a follow-up question, does that then open up my organization to apply for additional funding or some type of grant that Mass Mentoring offered, or did I misunderstand that in the presentation?
Oh, you mean in terms of being then approved as a quality-based program?
Yes.
I'm not aware. Well, I think actually once you are a quality-based member, then there are certain, services that you're entitled to. And Janine, I'm sorry, I think she's changing her computer so she can come back on with one that doesn't freeze. But she knows a lot more about that program. She's going to come in. So let's just hold that question. I think there are funding opportunities. I think there's a lot of TA opportunities. Mark was following up in response to your response, Janine, about then, okay, so I'm a QBM site. What do I get? You know, I don't want to, I hope I paraphrase correctly, but like,
No, that's fine. Yeah,
you know,
Rosie,
like,
that's fine.
you know, what does it mean? Like, show me the money. Like, what does it mean? You know?
Sure, and apologies. I'm dealing with, in this world, Wi-Fi issues as well. But yeah, so as a partner level member, for example, Mass Mentoring has what we call our Mayor's Mentoring Movement. Is a Boston specific program. That program is filled with just partners. The only programs that are eligible to be in that Mayor's Mentoring Movement, which is a recruitment kind of tool, are our partner level programs. So essentially we speak to funders and we say, hey, these are the kind of creme de la creme of our programs. These are the people who we know, that we vetted, that we know are doing high quality standards. So funders recognize it. It's actually part of a national process. Mentor the National Partnership has what they call NQMS. That's essentially QBM. So depending on where you go and how you frame it, there's outside external acknowledgement, and then internally for things such as inclusion in certain partnerships that we have, partnerships with the Celtics, funding opportunities that are limited. We're always going to look to our partner level programs first.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. I'm still learning about the whole QBM process, so your question was helpful to me as well. So we're almost at time, and I guess I just want to end by saying, when we started, we didn't really know what was going to happen, right? Because who the heck knew? And I have to say that the relationships that I'm developing with host sites through members who've been selected and are serving are really extraordinary. And people staying alive, people staying current, people staying, in the field doing the work that they know is important, as vital, if not more vital now, because of COVID, has been really inspiring. I am inspired every day by the members in the host sites. So I say, give yourself a pat on the back for being here and for continuing to be interested in how you can keep yourself going in a way that makes a difference. That really means something to me. I'm in my mid 50s. I started working at nonprofit youth serving organizations when I was 17, and it's still great work, and it's still work that is needed to get done. And thinking about the needs of youth, thinking about how many young people need empowering youth adult relationships. This is vital work. This is vital work in a day and age when young people are confused and struggling and being met with examples that are not so great about what they can do when they grow up. And so let's just all be really mindful of our presence in the lives of young people. And thank you all for coming today and for doing the good work. And on that note, wish I had some going away music here, but I'll sign out, and really feel free to reach out to me if you have questions about applying, if that's the route that you decide to pursue. And thank you, Janine, as always, very helpful. All right, take care.
Thank you, Mass Mentoring team.
Stay well.
Thank you.